Are you thinking about buying a car from Bowden's Cars? Unit 4 and 5, Kirby's Business Park, Duncanfield Road, Hyde. If you're thinking about buying a car from them, stop. Stop right now. You need to watch this video. I'm not someone who's just bought a car expecting something brand new for £3,500. I'm someone who's been scammed by Bowden's Cars. And I ask you this, if you'd just been scammed out of £3,500 and you knew who the scammers were, wouldn't you want to tell everyone else about it too? This is my story. Watch the video and find out why you should be avoiding Bowden's Cars. Hi, my name's Darren. I bought a car from Bowden Cars a month ago. I paid £3,500 for it. I've driven it a total of 154 miles. I haven't even used a full tank. The gearbox has a leak, power steering has a leak, and the head gasket has gone. This car had its MOT the day before it was delivered to me, and the MOT had no advisories whatsoever on it. Clean bill of health. I'm going to show you all the evidence that I have because I'm now having to fight to get my money back. Bowden Cars are ignoring my emails. They've hung up on me on the phone and I'm in for a long battle. But I'm determined not to let them do it to someone else. This is the story from start to finish and where we are now. So my story starts on the 19th of May 2021. I was looking for a new car with a tow bar, ready for when I can get back out into work as I'm a DJ. So I needed something that would be able to carry a trailer and also would be able to fit my gear in. I came across Bowden Cars from their website and Auto Trader adverts, and here's an advert that I saw for my car. As you can see, the price was $3,991. So after some consideration, I called the garage and spoke to a member of staff there called Alex. I explained to him that I was 4.5 hours drive away and asked him if he would be able to do a deal on the price. He said to me that if I came and collected the car, he would take £200 off because that would be the cost of delivering it. However, if I wanted it delivered, it would be the listed price of $3,991. I said thank you very much for his time and I would think about it. And what I realised now was a very brilliant case of social engineering. Just the day after I'd called, I checked the advert again and the price had been reduced to $3,491. That was £500 off the original price, and it still included free delivery. So, thinking it was, a great bargain, £500 off of a price that he'd told me just the day before, I decided that I would buy the car. I didn't realise at the time, but this was social engineering, and it wasn't the first time that they were going to do it. Just bear in mind that both of these adverts had exactly the same description on them. The car would have a full MOT, it would come with a 30-day warranty, and the only thing that had really changed was the price. On the 21st of May, 2 days after my original call, and when the price had been reduced to $3,491, I called again, spoke to Alex, and said I would like to buy the car. I paid an initial deposit on credit card of £491, leaving £3,000 to pay. I agreed I would pay this when the car was delivered. He told me that it would be put in for an MOT, but because of the current COVID restrictions, it could be about a week, but he would let me know when it would arrive. As you can see from this picture here, I sent an email after I paid him, asking for a receipt and just confirming that I'd paid the deposit and that the car should come within a week or so. Alarm bells should have been ringing at this point. because for that entire week I never received an email back confirming my payment. This was on a Friday, and by the time I'd reached the Wednesday, I had heard nothing about the car, had no email back, and was seriously considering cancelling the transaction. I thought very hard on that Wednesday, which would have been the 26th of May, about calling them and cancelling the transaction. Looking back, I wish I had. On Saturday the 29th of May, the car was supposed to be delivered at 12 o'clock midday. I waited until 2 o'clock, still no car. By 5 o'clock, I sent a message asking when it would be arriving. I got a reply saying, caught in traffic apparently. Now this may well have been true because this particular Saturday was the Saturday of the last bank holiday weekend in May. The driver arrived with the car shortly after I'd sent the text. This is where the next part of social engineering came into place. It was an old guy who delivered the car on a trailer. He must have been in his 60s, maybe even his 70s. When he arrived, he was incredibly flustered, was wheezing and breathing heavily. So much to the point, actually, I'd forgotten about the car really and was more concerned about his well-being. I invited him indoors for a drink, to have something to eat, to sit down. I was very concerned about him, much in the same way that if you were walking through the high street and you saw an old person sort of wheezing and looking distressed, you would stop. You would forget about everything else and you would just naturally stop to check to see if the person was okay. This was the state of the guy who delivered my car. I was very concerned about him, and after inviting him in and asking him to sit down, he kept saying, no, I just want to go. I've been stuck in traffic for a long time and I just got a long drive back and I just want to get home. He wasn't wearing a mask, although I wasn't particularly concerned by that issue at that time. I don't think it would have helped him with his breathing if he had a mask on. We rushed through the paperwork. I hardly inspected the car at all. He asked me to drive it off the back of the ramp, which I did. And I didn't have a chance to inspect it fully because he was in a hurry and he kept saying, I just want to leave, I just need to go. And he had a big car and a trailer which he'd bought my car on. And I live in a close, so this was blocking a lot of other cars as well from going in or out. So no, I didn't have a chance to fully walk around the car, inspect it, to see for leaks and stuff like that. But then had he been able to go and park somewhere and give me the time to do that, then I would have done it. But as I say, he was a distressed old guy and I was really concerned about him, more than just a car. So he came up indoors. He asked me to do the bank transfer, which I did. He gave me a form, which I believe was the purchase contract, and he just asked me to sign it. There was lots of writing on this. Now, I would have liked to have taken the time to sit down, read through it properly, and question anything. But at this point, he was standing next to me, and he was wheezing really badly, to the point I thought it was like maybe having an asthma attack. And again, I kept saying to him, take a seat, mate. You're not in any rush. I'm not forcing you out of my home. You can stay as long as you need. You're welcome to a cup of tea or something to eat. No, he kept saying, I just need to go. I need to get back. I've got a long drive. It's taken me 7 hours to get here, and it's going to take me about that to get home, and I just want to go back. I even made him a glass of juice, and he didn't bother drinking it. He just put it on the side, watched me sign the paperwork, and before you know it, he was off again. And looking back now, I see how that was really quite clever, because anybody who would have driven 7 hours would have wanted a break. So, he could have used the toilet, he could have sat down for 10 minutes, and he didn't. But he could have very well driven up the road to the local service stations and had his break there. And as you can see from this picture here, I sent a text message to Alex saying and expressing my concerns about this guy because he was so bad and he was in such a hurry and he seemed so distressed. That I actually sent a message because I was concerned about him driving home. To be honest with you, I thought he was going to drive home with his big old trailer on the back and have a heart attack on the motorway and kill someone else on the way. That was my worry. So I asked Alex and told him, to keep an eye on him. So I was expecting him to maybe send him a text or give him a phone call an hour or two later, just to check that the guy got home okay. This was the situation, it was that serious. So no, I didn't give the car a full inspection. My mind wasn't on it. My mind was more concerned with this guy who delivered it. That night I came to tax the vehicle and realised I didn't have the new keeper's slip. We managed to find another piece of paper which had some kind of vehicle identity number on it. So I sent an email to Alex saying, look, I'm trying to tax it. Can you just take a picture of the new keeper slip for me and send it to me so that I can tax it? He didn't reply by email, but he sent me a text telling me to just put a 0 in front of that number that I had, and that would work. I went online and actually managed to do it. Putting a 0 in front of the number I had worked, but I didn't have a new keeper slip. Even at the time of doing this video right now, I still have no new keeper slip. And I rang the DVLA last week, and as far as they're concerned, they haven't had a request yet for a change of ownership. Today's date right now is the 7th of July 2021, and I still have no proof of ownership. The next problem I had, which isn't a big problem, was we got to a week later, the 6th of June, and I could see that they were still advertising my car, which I'd bought. I sent them an email and asked them to delete all the adverts for it. They replied and said it does take a bit longer, but they will get it done. What's important about this fact is that I'd sent them an email using the email address that they had advertised, and they'd replied. I'm going to be using this in the future as I proceed with my claim against them, because I don't want them to say they didn't get the email. My next encounter with Bowden cars was just 13 days after I'd received the car, so less than 2 weeks. I'd noticed that 2 of the tyres were different to 2 other tyres on the car. They had deeper treads and were set for more off-roading rather than normal roadworthiness. So I researched the tyres online and bought 2 replacement off-road tyres so that all 4 tyres were usable for off-road. This was at a cost of £250. I then took it into my local garage and arranged to have them to fit the tyres. The tyres were delivered there from Black Circles, and they are a Black Circles tyre fitter. Whilst the car was there, they noticed that there was oil leaking from the transmission and differentials. Unfortunately, it was just booked in to have the tyres done. They were very busy and said they couldn't investigate further. So I then booked the car to go into the garage at the next available date, which was the 28th of June. I wanted them to investigate it properly, find out what the problem was, so that I could then go back to Bowden's and tell them. That day, I came home, I sent them a long email explaining that I'd taken it to the garage and what they'd found. By this point, I was becoming a bit despondent. This was a gearbox transmission issue, and I knew it would be expensive. Plus, I'd also had this experience of not getting replies from them from previous emails. The distress started to kick in, and I was quite worried at this point. But I had my fingers crossed that they'd come through and back up all the claims about their customer service and their warranty. And just as an afterthought, I'm mentioning about the tyres. The reasons why I needed to take it to the garage to get the tyres done was because the 2 all-terrain tyres that were on it were on one side. So it wasn't like there was 2 all-terrain tyres on the front or 2 on the back. There was 2 of different thickness on one side and 2 completely different ones on the other side of the car. 8 days after this email, I hadn't heard back from Bowden Cars, and it was now the 19th of June, just 3 weeks after I'd had the car delivered. You'll see the email here in the video. I've been pleasant, I've been understanding, I've asked for the warranty information, I've explained what the problems are, and again, I'm having to chase the issue up. So despite what you may read about their service and their after sales service, it's all here in black and white. I'm not making anything up. However, after this email, I got lucky. This is my lifeline. On the 20th of June, they replied and said, book it in for us to take a look. This is important because once they acknowledge the fault, the 30-day warranty that I have is frozen and it's extended until that fault is resolved. So my 30 days continues until this gearbox fault is sorted. Because the head gasket's gone on my car, I can't tell if the gearbox fault's been sorted because I can't drive the car. Also, the email on the 20th acknowledges the fact that they know there is a fault with the car, so they can't claim that I'm outside my 30 days. The email was pretty pointless because they said book it in, but I'm 4.5 hours away from them, and even if they were closer by, if the gearbox oil is leaking, I'm not sure I would want to drive it in case it seizes. So I called them. I called the office and I said to them, I'm 4.5 hours away. Are you sure you want it booked in up there to be inspected? Are you prepared to bring a trailer down, pick the car up, take it back up to Manchester, inspect it, fix it, and then bring it back down again? The person who I spoke to in the office said he was just there to manage the office. He didn't make those decisions, but he would think that it probably is unlikely that they would want to come and pick the car up, bring it back, fix it, and then return it to me. He said someone would call me the next day. Of course, no one called me the next day. I didn't drive the car for a whole week. I wasn't going to risk it. I didn't want to cause any more damage. And so I've effectively had a car for a whole week, which I couldn't use. But it went into the garage, my local garage, on the 28th of June. A few hours later, they rang me back and said, yep, it's definitely oil leaking from the transmission gearbox. And it appears to be leaking from the differentials as well, because it's an all-wheel drive car. It has front and rear differentials. They said it's not a job that they could do, and when they take on jobs like that, they send them to another garage up in Crawley. They said give them a call, but it's very much you have to take the transmission gearbox out, recondition it, and put it back in again. We're looking at quite a costly bill to have this done. Not wanting to be without a car, I did some research on this at home. I also rang the garage that my local garage had recommended, and they said they would get back to me with a quote. Now, according to some YouTube videos and some research, this leak and that could be perhaps fixed with sealant. So I sent another email to Bowden Cars and I said, this might be a possible fix. I've got some axle stands. If I buy the stuff, would you reimburse me? And would you like me to have a go? But at no point do I want to invalidate my warranty or anything like that. So it's, it's a possibility that it might work, and it might save a lot of money. They emailed back and said, yes, have a go. Let us know how you get on. Now, I'm not a mechanic, okay? And what you need to understand right now is that the gearbox has nothing to do with the head gasket failure, which is the main reason I can't drive my car right now. Effectively, all I needed to do was put sealant round where two pieces of metal joined together. I listed all the products. I spent several hours one evening finding all the products. I listed them. I then sent an email to Bowden's car confirming whether or not they would reimburse me for these products and to try and fix the car. This was on the 30th of June. I received no reply. On the 1st of July, I forwarded the email again, asking them to confirm. Once again, I received no reply. Of course, I hadn't heard anything back, and I needed to make progress with the car. I needed it for work, my DJ. I've got gigs coming up once the lockdown eases, and I need to make sure this car's reliable and it's going to get me from gig to gig. On Friday the 2nd of July, I drove to my local Halfords, which is about 2 minutes away from my home. I bought some of the stuff that I said I needed because the job needed to get done, and at the very least I needed to try. From the Halfords I went to the local Tesco's. and put £30 worth of petrol in the car. As I was driving home, my engine oil light came on. I parked the car up and I thought I'll leave it till the morning when I'm going to have a look at it anyway, and I'll check the oil level. The next day, Saturday, the 3rd of July, having only had the car here for 5 weeks and not even been able to drive it for those 5 weeks, having only done 154 miles in it, which isn't even the distance from Bowden's car to my home. I checked the oil. The oil cap and the dipstick are all full of orange foam, which is an indication that the head gasket's gone. Once the head gasket goes, the engine's pretty much knackered. It either needs to be fully overhauled or replaced, one or the other, and it's an expensive job. This was the final straw for me, so I came indoors and I called Bowden Cars. On my first attempt at calling, I got through to Nigel at Bowden's Cars. I explained the problems and I told him about the emails that I'd sent. I told him that I hadn't received any replies, and I can prove that because I have the emails and they don't have any emails that they've replied, so it's there in black and white. He got angry with me and hung up, so I called him again. I tried a different tact and said to him, okay, moving forward, how can you help me? What can you do? He said the person who deals with the support side of things wouldn't be until Monday. So write out everything that has happened, send it in an email. Again, me taking up all my time rewriting the will because I've already sent these emails and someone would get back to me. I said to him I was unsure whether someone would get back to me and that I'd lost a bit of trust in him. He then changed his story and said someone would get back to me on Tuesday. I said to him, well, you first off told me Monday and now you're saying Tuesday. He called me pedantic and hung up on me again. I wasn't prepared to ring him a third time, so I did what he asked. I wrote a lengthy email, I enclosed pictures, and I broke everything down day by day in the 5 weeks ownership that I've had the car, and how much it's cost. No one got back to me on Monday the 5th of July. No one got back to me on Tuesday the 6th of July. Today's Wednesday the 7th of July, and surprise, surprise, I've still had no reply. And still no reply. I will be doing a part 2 video to let you know how I progress. But if you're thinking about buying a car from Bowden's Cars after watching this video, then that's your choice. But I'm just going to recap all of the events so far. I found the car, I rang them. A day later they reduced the price online by £500. The car had a perfect MOT the day before, and yet the gearbox was leaking, power steering was leaking, and obviously the head gasket was out. I've communicated with them. I've tried to help them. I've been amicable. I get ignored. I get hung up on the phone. Now you have to resist the urge to just think, oh yeah, I really like that car. I really like that car. Because that's what they're hoping for. And I'm fortunate in that I can just about cope with that loss at the moment. I've got another car that I'm trying to use. But imagine this was a young person and it was their first car. They saved up all their money and then they get that car. Can you imagine how crushed they'd be? Or imagine it was a family who needed the car for school runs. An absolute necessity. And then the car breaks down. Or imagine how it feels. You've spent £3,500 for something and that money's gone and you don't have anything to show for it. If you knew the people that had taken that money, you would be wanting to tell everyone about it too, wouldn't you? You would be wanting to warn people and share this experience with them. And that's exactly what I'm doing. My fight will be ongoing with them. I'm going to be posting this video on YouTube, and I'm going to be letting the world know about Bowden's cars. So part 1 is here. Stay tuned for part 2, because there will be many parts until I get my money back and they take this car away.